Chapter 19. Narrative resumed by Jim Hawkins. The garrison in the stockade. As soon as Ben Gunn saw the colors, he came to a halt, stopped me by the arm, and sat down. "Now," said he, "there's your friends, sure enough." "Far more likely it's the mutineers," I answered. "That?" he cried. "Why, in a place like this, where nobody puts in but gentlemen of fortune, Silver will fly the Jolly Roger. You don't make no doubt of that. No, that's your friends. There's been blows too, and I reckon your friends has had the best of it. And here they are ashore in the old stockade, as was made years and years ago by Flint. He was the man to have a headpiece, was Flint, barring room. His match were never seen. We were afraid of none, not he. Only Silver. Silver was that gentile, not Gentile. Well, said I, that was maybe so be it. All the more reason that I shall hurry on and join my friends. "Nay, man," returned Ben, "not you. You're a good boy. Or I'm mistook. But you're a boy, all told. Now Ben Gunn is fly. Rum wouldn't bring me there, where you're going. Not rum wouldn't, till I see you're born gentleman, and gets it on his word of honor. And you won't forget my words. A precious sight. That's what you'll say. A precious sight, more confidence." And then nips him. And he pitched me third time on the same air of cleverness. "And when Ben Gunn is wanted, and you know where to find him, Jim, just where you find him today, and he that comes is to have a white thing in his hand, and he's to come alone. Oh, and you'll say, 'Ben Gunn,' says you, 'has reasons of his own.'" "Well," said I believe I understand. You have something to purpose, and you wish to see the squire or the doctor, and you are to found where I found you. Is that all?" "And when, says you?" he added. "Why, from about noon observation to about 6 bells. "Good," said I. "And now may I go?" "You won't forget?" he inquired anxiously. "Precious sight. And reasons of his own, says you. Reasons of his own. That's the main thing, as between man and man. Well then," still holding me, "I reckon you can go, Jim." "And Jim, as if you was to see Silver, you wouldn't go for to sell Ben Gunn. Wild horses wouldn't draw it from you." "No," says you. "And if the pirates camp ashore, Jim, what would you say but there'll be widers in the morning?" Here he was interrupted by a loud report, and a cannon ball came tearing through the trees and pitching in the sand, not 100 yards from where we two were talking. The next moment each of us had taken to his heels in a different direction. For a good hour to come, frequent reports shook the island. The balls kept crashing through the woods. I moved from hiding place to hiding place, always pursued, or so it seems to be, by the terrifying missiles. But towards the end of the bombardment, through still I durst not venture in the direction of the stockade, where the balls fell oftenest. I had begun in a manner to pluck up my heart again, and after a long detour to the east, crept down among the shoreside trees. The sun had just set. The sea breeze was rustling and tumbling in the woods and ruffling the grey surface of the anchorage. The tide, too, was far out, and great tracts of sand lay uncovered. The air, after the heat of the day, chilled me through my jacket. The Hispaniola still lay where he had anchored, but sure enough there was the Jolly Roger, the black flag of piracy, flying from her peak. Even as I looked, there came another red flag and another report that sent echoes clattering, and one more round shot whistled through the air. It was the last of the cannonade. I lay from some time, watching the bustle which succeeded the attack. Men were demolishing something with axes on the beach near the stockade. The poor jolly boat, I afterwards discovered. Away near the mouth of the river a great fire was glowing among the trees, and between that point and the ship one of the kids kept coming and going, the men whom I had seen so gloomy shouting at the oars like children. But there was a sound in their voices which suggested rum. At length, I thought I might return towards the stockade. I was pretty far down on the low, sandy spit in the enclose of the anchorage to the east, and it joined us at a half-water skeleton island. And now, as I rose to my feet, I saw some distance further down the spit, and rising from among low bushes, an isolated rock pretty high, and particularly white in color. It occurred to me that this might be the white rock of which Ben Gunn had spoken, and that some day or other boat might be wanted, and I should know where to look for one. Then I steered among the woods, and I regained the or shoreward side of the stockade, and was soon warmly welcomed by the faithful party. I had soon told my story, and began to look about me. The log house was made on square trunks of pine, roof, walls, and floor. The latter stood in several places as much as a foot or a foot and a half above the surface of the sand. There was a porch at the door, and under this porch the little spring welled up into an artificial basin of a rather odd kind, no other than a great ship's kettle of iron, with the bottom knocked out and sunk to the bearings, as the captain said, among the sand. Little had been left beside the framework of the house, but in one corner there was a stone slab laid down by way of the hearth, and an old rusty iron basket to contain the fire. The slabs of the knoll and all inside the stockade had been cleared of timber and built the house, and we could see by the stumps what a fine and lofty grove had been destroyed. Most of the soil had been washed away or buried deep after the removal of the trees. Only where the streamlet ran down from the kettle, a thick bed of moss, some ferns, and little creeping bushes were still green among the sand. Very close around the stockade, too close for defense, they said. The wood still flourished high and dense, and of fear on the land side, but towards the sea with a large admixture of live oaks. The cold evening breeze of which I have spoken whistled through every chink of the rough building, and sprinkled the floor with a continual rain of fine sand. There was sand in our eyes, sand in our teeth, sand in our suppers, and dancing in spring at the bottom of the kettle, for all the world like porridge beginning to boil. Our chimney was a square hole in the roof. It was but little part of the smoke that found its way out, and the rest invaded about the house, and kept us coughing and peeping the eye. To this, that grey, the new man, that his face tied up in a bandage for a cut he had got, breaking away from the mutineers, and that poor old Tom Redwood, still unburied, and along the wall, stiff and stark, under the Union Jack. We have not an Union Jack. We have been allowed to sit idle. We should all fall in the blues, but Captain Smalley has never the man for that. All hands were called up before him, and he divided us into watches, the doctor and Gray, and I, for once, the squire, Hunter, and Joyce upon the other. Tired as we all were, 2 were sent out for firewood, 2 more set to dig a grave for Redwood. The doctor was named Cook. I was put sentry at the door, and the captain himself went from one to another, keeping up our spirits and lending a hand whenever was wanted. From time to time the doctor came to the door for a little air, and to rest his eyes, which were almost smoked out of his head, and whenever he did so he had a word for me. "That man Smollett," he said once, "is a better man than I am. And when I say that, it means a deal, Jim." Another time he came and was silent for a while. Then he put his head on his side and looked at me. "Is this Mengun a man?" he asked. "I do not know, sir," said I. "I am not very sure whether he's sane. Man who has been 3 years beating his nails on a desert island, Jim, can't expect to appear as sane as you or me. It doesn't lie in human nature. Was it cheese you said he had a fancy for?" "Yes, sir, cheese," I answered. "Well, Jim," says he, "just see the good that comes of being dainty in your food. You've seen my snuff box, haven't you? And you never saw me take snuff. The reason being that in my snuff box I carry a piece of Parmesan cheese, a cheese made in Italy, very nutritious. Well, that's for Ben Gunn. Before supper was eaten, we buried old Tom in the sand and stood round him for a while, bareheaded in the breeze. A good deal of firewood had been got in, but not enough for the captain's fancy, and he shook his head over it, and told us we must get back to this tomorrow rather than live liar. Then, when we have eaten the pork and each had a good stiff glass of brandy grog, the 3 chiefs got together in a corner to discuss our prospects. It appears they were at their wits' end what to do, the stores being so low that we must have been starved into surrender long before help came. But our best hope, it was decided, was to kill off the buccaneers until they hauled down their flag or round with the Española. From 19 there were already reduced to 15. 2 others were wounded, and one at least, the man shot beside the gun, severely wounded, if he were not dead. Every time he had a crack at them, we were to take it, saving our lives with the extremest care. And besides that, we had 2 able allies, rum and climate. As for the first, though we were about half a mile away, we could hear them roaring and singing late into the night. And for the second, the doctor stayed his week there, camped where they were in the marsh, and unprovided with remedies. The half of them will be in their bags before a week. So he added, if we were not at all shut down first, they'll be glad to be packing in the schooner. It's always a ship, and they can get to buccaneering again, I suppose. "First ship that ever I lost," said Captain Smollett. "I was dead tired, as you may fancy, and when I got to sleep, which was not still after a great deal of tossing, I slept like a log of wood. The rest had long been up, and had already breakfasted, and increased a pile of firewood, but about half as much again, when I was awakened by the bustle and the sound of voices. 'Flag of truce,' I heard someone say, and then immediately after, with a cry of surprise, 'Silvers himself!' And at that, up I jumped, and rubbing my eyes, ran to a loophole in the wall.